Welcome to the Podunk Polymath, a podcast dedicated to the sentiments of a secular, sarcastic, screwed-up Southern SJW and skeptic. I'm your host, Chris. Come on in. This is episode 66 of the Podunk Polymath Podcast. Thanks again for joining me. Hope you all had spectacular another 2 weeks because I was sick last week with the flu. Again, over the last 2 weeks, I had 2 bouts, even though I got the flu shot. They were not as bad as they could have been, but they were still annoying. I had the fever twice. And this last time, I was laid up the entire New Year's weekend, and it wasn't fun. And I had interesting dreams, so sorry about that. So, hopefully you didn't miss me too much. The pre-ramble. I get back to Trump. I mean, Lord have mercy. This time he has tweeted that he has a bigger button than Kim Jong-il or Un or whatever, North Korea. So apparently we're going to have a dick-waving contest with a nuclear equipped state or armed state or whatever. That's always fun. Of course, also, these investigations keep going. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Spicer came out with a book. Talking shit. Not Spicer, I'm sorry. Steve Bannon came out with a book talking shit about Trump and what a piece of shit he is and saying he was treasonous. All these meetings he had with the Russians was treasonous and all that good stuff. So that's another good story. That should be interesting. Get your popcorn ready for that one. I also wanted to mention the company who did the Steele report, Fusion GPS, actually did an editorial in the Times about the fact that they won't release, Congress won't release, the committee won't release their testimony regarding the Steele report and what they found in that report. Of course, that report was about Trump's team colluding with the Russians, what they said to him. They had dirt on Hillary, and they've kind of not really told the truth about that. Surprise, surprise. So, since they won't release it, they went on and given an editorial in the New York Times. So, there's no smoking gun yet, and a lot of most of it's just hearsay right now because there's no real proof. We've got a bunch of, interesting dots that aren't quite connecting, but who knows what Mueller come out with. Hopefully he doesn't try to get rid of him. We have another Saturday night massacre, like we did with Nixon. So, you never know though, because, this guy's not all there, and there's no telling what the fuck he's gonna do next. So, what else can you really say? Trump's a fucking just narcissistic, misogynistic, racist. Every other word you want to think of. Incompetent buffoon. And that's putting it mildly, so we'll just hope that he doesn't blow us up before we get to the midterms and maybe mitigate some of this crazy shit he's doing right now. But one can only hope. On the palaver this week, I have with me Angela Reddekopp. Had to bring her on short notice. That's not to mean that it wasn't a great conversation, because when I was sick, I had another interview, but I was sick, so I didn't get to do the interview. But I had Angela on. She's from Brainstorm Podcast. And of course, I was on there. I think that was the first show I was on when I started this one. So I'm eternally grateful to them. Of course, Corey Johnson is on with her, and there's apparently 20 other people. I can't keep track, but she came on and talked to me about the Me Too movement, and we talked about what she thought and what kind of the circumstances were behind it, some of the backlash, some of the things we've learned, some of the celebrities that were, kind of outed as a result, and what maybe we can do, mostly men, what the fuck men can do, since we're the one that started the shit to begin with and make women feel like shit. The least we can do is try to do something about it. So, anyway, I think it's an enlightening conversation. It's not easy. Any of these conversations generally aren't, but I think y'all learned some, and I hope y'all enjoy it.
Have you heard the Habeas Humor Podcast? It's a new legal show with lots of thoughtful analysis.
That must have been like a desert fart of dry excitement.
Famous politicians, or at least people who went to school with them.
And then she says, have you met Barack Obama? And I'm asking, who the heck is Shakalama?
And legal tips. You can still be rapey if your dick doesn't work, the more you know. Disney can't sue me if I don't sing it. HABEASHUMOR.
Looking for something new and exciting, or maybe just a change from the old Atheist Show format? Cellar Door Skeptics Podcast provides listeners with hours of enjoyment each week on Spreaker and iTunes. Check us out as we talk politics, religion, science, reviews of books and music, along with the occasional interview just for a twist. Join Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern as they bring fresh content to you. Walk with us through the cellar door as we help you prepare for the revolution. You can find us on Spreaker, iTunes, YouTube, and even on Facebook.
Welcome to another edition of Palaver here in the Podunk Polymath Podcast. This week I have with me someone whose show I've actually been on, along with Corey Johnston and a gaggle of others over at the Brainstorm Podcast. Join me in welcoming Angela Reddekopp. How's it going, Angela?
Not too bad. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
I want to thank you for coming on a short notice. I was sick.
No problem.
I had a bit of a flu episode, and I missed the interview I had, so I put out a call, and you were so gracious as to answer. So,
well, thanks for having me on. It's fun to talk with other people in different formats. So,
yeah,
it's good to shake it up a bit.
What is your show about?
Brainstorm Podcast is basically looking at the world through skeptic goggles, as it were. It's just the premise is just a whole bunch of people around a table, literally just talking about skeptic issues. We like to find really weird stuff from around the interwebs and talk about them. You know, people making love to trees, what have you. And sometimes we get to the serious topics of various, like hashtag Me Too, and sexual harassment and things of that nature, and, you know, racism, and we're trying to be as social justice conscious as possible.
Well, that's good, because that's right up my alley. And of course, of course, one of your co-hosts, Corey Johnson, I like to consider him a friend, even though he's literally 1,000 miles away, probably. But literally. Yeah, we've talked quite a few times. I've been on his show. He's been on my show. I'm a patron of the Hardcore Skeptic Examines. And I think he became mine again after a short absence. So he's a super cool guy.
He is.
I consider him somebody who is a voice of reason and a voice of accent, since he is the strongest Canadian accent I think there is that I know. So.
Well, I think that's an accurate statement.
Yeah, I've heard him say that. People have said that. I'm like, yeah, well, that's true. So that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. Distinction.
Absolutely.
So.
But yeah, he's a good guy. It's a real pleasure to be on the crew of the podcast. He's a very passionate skeptic, and he's a very passionate community-minded skeptic. And I think we need more Corys in the world in order to make our world better, I think.
Oh, definitely. That's very nice. That's very sweet. Of course, you're Canadian, so you're like nice, I guess. So.
Yeah. I haven't started apologizing yet.
Don't
even.
Once you get started, you can't stop. It's like...
Yeah.
So, when you responded to my call, you had mentioned the Me Too movement, and I actually had been meaning to talk about it, and I gave a brief monologue on a pre-ramble on the previous show, but of course, that was just some dude talking or whatever. Since this,
as they do.
Yeah, as they will do, because they like the sound of their own voices generally. I do a whole show. Yeah, so I do a whole show with my voice, so yeah. I'm proving my own point.
Yeah, you are.
So, yeah, I thought it'd be interesting to have this conversation because, of course, everybody's been talking about it, of course, and it's been a big splash and everything, and there's been a lot of kind of repercussions, I think. Of course, we've seen this whole cascade of men behaving badly coming to light, and I think it's refreshing, and I think it's put men on guard against things they shouldn't have been doing anyway, but now they're all scared because they're thinking, have I ever touched a woman inappropriately or something, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So first of all, we talked a little bit before the show about what is it about? So I finally found this article from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Now the Me Too movement was started by Tarana Burke like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and it just like got attention again recently with the Harvey Weinstein revelations, and Alyssa Milano invoked it. But see, it's an online campaign that supports survivors of sexual abuse, assault, and harassment, and recently taken social media by storm. She's an activist from Harlem. She launched a movement a decade ago to aid underprivileged women of color affected by sexual abuse. Mm-hmm. She was inspired after bonding with a young girl during a youth camp hosted by Just Be Incorporated, a nonprofit she founded that's focused on the health, well-being, and wholeness of young women of color. Okay? So
yeah,
that's where that comes from, and it resurfaced in October when Alyssa Milano took to Twitter to invite those who have experienced sexual harassment to respond with Me Too. And of course, that was after the Harvey Weinstein allegations. So that's kind of the genesis of this whole thing, I guess. And I seem to recall Rose McGowan tweeting something as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And then, of course, that kind of started the ball rolling. But why don't you kind of just give an opening statement, what you think the Me Too...
To me personally, I haven't actually had a lot of opportunity or, I guess, time to really ponder the whole thing up until recently. And it's been something it's very polarizing. There's some people that are incredibly outspoken, and I think a lot of people were empowered to invoke the hashtag and use it to tell their stories. But I think it also really... There were some women who chose not to participate for reasons that they didn't want to talk about. And I think for me, somebody who didn't publicly talk about it up until right now, I guess, it's kind of disturbing almost how pervasive sexual harassment is in our culture, and how it's amazing how it's just everywhere. And it's almost frightening to have to go through my past with my interactions with men and think, okay, that was sexual harassment. That was sexual harassment. That creepy guy that my dad worked with, the guy that, these things kind of slowly come out of the woodwork. And it takes a lot of work to kind of exercise these demons, so to speak. And for me, it's kind of made me not necessarily want to interact with people as much, just because this is a big deal. And I think ultimately it's been positive for people, and it's been helpful for people to name the people that harassed them and sexually assaulted them. But for some people, it's just still really, they can't come out for reasons. They have their own reasons, but they just can't talk about it because it's still happening, because they fear that they might lose their jobs or worse. And I think for me, it's been good, but I think there's more. I think more that needs to be done, because there's been that inevitable backlash. I mean, men have wondered, okay, have I sexually harassed somebody or, been inappropriate with a woman? And I think that's appropriate to be reflective in that way. But I think it's also some people are getting really defensive as though, I didn't do anything wrong or, that wasn't sexual harassment or, so it's a big, scary thing still for me to think about the way that my life has been impacted by this. And I think if I had to sit down and think about it, I think there would be a long list of ways that I related to the movement. And I don't know, I'm lucky enough to have men in my life that are respectful of women, and they don't harass them or assault them, which is, I consider myself lucky that way. But there's still those men out there that do that, and they're completely unapologetic about it. So, yeah, that's long story short.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see kind of the arc, the way this thing has played out. Now, I wanted to say you're in Canada. Now, of course, statistics may be different. I can't imagine they're significantly different.
I don't think it's tremendously different.
I mean, sexual harassment is not something that's limited to one country or another, unfortunately.
No.
I think one of the arguments I heard, some women were basically being asked to do emotional labor, for the benefit of men, basically having to relive old experiences, that were painful experiences for the benefit of education, but yet they have the fear that it's not going to do any good because they've done it before and it hasn't done shit. And so why should they do it again? Do you think that's a valid argument?
I think it's absolutely valid. I think culturally, men are raised to deny their feelings and to suppress their emotions. And I think women we're made fun of for having feelings or for crying or for being angry and also crying, because I cry when I'm mad. I cry when I'm happy. I cry when I'm sad. So, and people, some people make fun of me for that. And that is an example of, we're doing the emotional labor. We're going through this trauma of being taken advantage of, somebody stepping inside of my personal space and violating that, whether verbally or otherwise. And it's not helping that we're going through that, because the men are, they're still kind of off on the sidelines, kind of victim blaming, kind of, well, you brought it on yourself. This is just the way that we are, and I think that if men were to be able to express their feelings and feel, if it was more culturally acceptable for them to feel feelings, I think it would be easier.
Yeah. Toxic masculinity, definitely. We can't ignore that. That's one of the main factors at play here, I think. Mm-hmm. And you're right. We're socialized not to express emotions, to keep it down, just kind of man up, just the only type of emotions that are acceptable to show is anger.
Exactly.
Or even jealousy, I guess. And
yep.
I'm no stranger to that.
Or just bravado in general.
Machismo. Or whatever. I mean,
cockiness.
I have a difficult time crying. Even if I want to, it's difficult for me. Even when I do, I feel embarrassed. So I'm a bit of a victim. Even though I'm pretty self-aware, so I know where my faults lay and where I have issues, and that's definitely one of them. And it's just one of those things that are socialized into men, I think. But at some point, you have to take responsibility for your actions. We have to step up and make some changes. So that's definitely one of the major things that needs to happen. But so, are you surprised by the kind of the way this took off?
No. I mean, because there's often those viral things, what we're seeing with Mr. Paul and his video about the Japan suicide forest. And also, I mean, there's always, it's a meme or it's a story, or if it's, we live in an age where social media is, we're all connected via social media, and these things can take off rather quickly. I'm not surprised that it went viral, because I think, like, I'm kind of an armchair, like, because we live in Canada, but I think there's also symptoms of the way that you guys elected Trump, and there was a lot of people that were legit like, what the fuck just happened? And I mean, I think we were in the same boat in Canada, and yes, we recently elected a liberal prime minister, but in my particular region, there's a lot of very rural, very traditional values that exist. And along with that is that traditional gender role thing. And I think the progressives, they made it happen. Like, I'm glad that this came out, but ultimately I'm not surprised that it happened. I mean, it was about frickin' time as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think that's there's one of the things I think that frustrated women the most, and I get men too, that have any sense of have any idea what the hell's going on, is they were so surprised over it or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What are you talking about? I can't believe it's this widespread. I don't know what you mean.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you not ever talk to women ever? I don't. I swear to God, I mean, because I don't think I've met a woman. I haven't met many women that I've known who haven't either been assaulted or raped. Okay.
Yeah.
Much less harassed. So, I mean, this is absolutely no surprise to anybody that's been paying attention.
Exactly. I think if you've had your head in the sand, yeah, you might be a little surprised. If you think that it's totally okay to do what these men have done, okay, yeah, you might be surprised. But if you stop and you listen, besides to your own voice, then you're gonna notice that, yeah, this is really common.
And this goes to the wider issue of women's issues and feminism, and kind of a lot of things that women go through that men just don't even think about or realize, I think. And a lot of it is just basic. Apparently, we have problems with empathy in general. At least in this country, I'm sure it's not any different than there are many places. Just a general lack of empathy, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. I think we have issues with that.
I fully agree with that. Yeah, I think I think that's one of the issues we have being on social media, and with the trolls that exist. I think it's really hard to have that human connection on Facebook, even though it's a social network. It's still really hard. Like, you really have to be conscious of how you talk to people. It's really easy to lose that sense of humanity, just if you're typing something, because you can type it quickly and, you're not sitting across the table from somebody. So, yeah, it's really easy to separate yourself from that. And I think, I don't know, that's pretty much why the world's going to shit as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree. But, that's a whole nother conversation right there.
Yeah, it is. I think there's good people. I mean, there's good people. It's not going to shit. I think that the people that are good have to work harder to remind everybody else that it's not a shithole.
Well, I'm not as optimistic, but there are good people. I just don't think there's enough of them to stop the world going down in flames. But anyway, that's a different conversation. So let's talk about some of the high profile things that have been going on. I mean, like Harvey Weinstein was the first one to go down. He was the major one to first go down. He was a producer. I don't think a lot of people knew him. I mean, they probably heard his name, but didn't really know who he was. Of course, if you heard of the Weinstein Companies, they were major film producer. They initially owned Miramax, and I believe they sold that off, and they became the Weinstein Brothers. I don't know exactly, but he had come out. I guess a lot of people. He was the big one that went down, and I think Alyssa Milano was the problem. That was who came out on that first, and then women just started relaying these stories about this guy, and it's just like, oh my fuck, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
And it wasn't just, at first it was, a couple, because we all know that unless 100 fucking women come forward, nobody's going to believe them.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's one of the issues is, they talk about why do we need feminism? Right there. The fact that, like, tons of women have to come out before anybody believes them. Same thing happened with Cosby.
Yep.
So, but anyway, so that started, and then, actresses that you would never, just famous actresses coming forward and telling their stories about him, and then I think that was an obvious case that he needed to fucking go. I don't think.
I'm kind of impressed with how quickly that happened too. Like how quickly the board voted to remove him from the company. I was encouraged by how swift that happened as these stories came out.
Yeah, but that almost sounds to me like they already knew anyway. Well,
and also I just heard this the other day that there was a clause in his contract that there was, like, after the first offense, he had to pay the company a certain amount. After the second offense, he had to pay the company more. So clearly, if it was written into his employment contract, they were aware of what was happening.
Yeah, they knew, and that's that's another thing. But first of all, let's kind of go down the list here of who we have that kind of some of the major ones that have been outed so far. Weinstein,
there's a lot.
But I don't know if I can remember them all.
Kevin Spacey.
Oh yeah, Kevin Spacey. I think that one was interesting because it was a. Well, first of all, the thing that was fucked up about that is he decided to come out as.
Yeah, which I'm sorry, but that was ridiculous. That was the stupidest way to like. Was that an apology? No, that didn't look like an apology at all to me.
No, he basically tried to deflect. Oh, I'm gay, and I messed with this boy. He was only like, I can't remember how old he was, but he wasn't 18.
Yeah,
I think he was like 15 or something. So yeah, that was fucked up. On this, just that, and then I think he was one of the first ones, and then let's see. I know Russell Simmons had been accused of stuff. Of course, Louis C.K., that was another big one, a lot of people.
That was big. That was very big.
And especially because there's so many people that I know, and myself, were fans of his or whatever. And especially the stuff he does, a lot of it is feminist oriented, I guess you could say, and he's...
In a way, yeah. Well, he kind of positions himself like the fall guy in a way, right? Like the guy who finishes last. And he says in his own comedy stuff, like the worst thing for a woman is a man. Like the most dangerous thing is a man to a woman. Like he talks about that in his comedy.
Yeah, and it's almost like he was making amends for the fact that he was doing that. It's almost like he was trying to make up for it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he was promoting female comedians, which was another interesting...
That's right. While he's jacking off in hotel rooms with them, hanging out there, like, looking super uncomfortable.
Yeah, I guess we should mention why the hell, that's kind of the major thing. He was masturbating in front of women. I just can't even imagine that. It's just bizarre to me. And
Well, and a lot of people, the thing about Louis C.K. too is that there's controversy in that he asked permission every time. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to jack off. And a lot of people are arguing, like, why didn't the women say, no, that's not okay? And there's that that inevitable power position that he was in. And what would have happened? They would have been blacklisted if they had said, no, please don't do that. This is gross. They would have been crucified.
Yeah, there's a couple women who came forward and said they were because of that.
Yeah. Mario Batali has been accused by 4 women.
Who's that?
He's a celebrity chef. He's on The Chew right now. He has some fancy restaurants as well.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Garrison Keillor.
Oh, that one's strange because it's like nobody knows what's going on. They kept it under wraps, so I'm not exactly sure what happened there.
Yeah. Matt Lauer, that's a big one.
Matt Lauer, yeah, that one. Wow, I don't. And one of the common things with guys like him, Charlie Rose, that's another one. Mm-hmm. These big media personality types, is the fact that they knew they were doing this on a serially, like all the time. This wasn't a secret. It was like, and we probably should mention what's I guess called the Whisper Network or something like that.
Yes.
Where women tell other women what men who not to be around, because they're known to like do shit like that, touch people, women inappropriately or whatever.
Yep.
And that's another like I can't believe. What are you talking about? I mean, now I didn't know it was I had a name or anything. I assumed that women talked about obviously about these things because they sure as fuck can't tell other men about it.
Well, and if they did, they're probably like, what? Blah, whatever. She was really wearing a slutty shirt that day, or blah 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 blah. Because our voices don't count for as much as a man's.
Well, that's yeah. Well, I mean that's true. I mean, if you're going to be honest about it, that's definitely true. I mean, the thing about Lauer to me was that he had a button under his desk where he could lock the door. What the literal? Why would you let? I mean, oh my God! Why'd they let him? It's the power. Yeah. I mean, he had so much power that he could basically do whatever the fuck he wanted, and that's what a lot of this boils down to. You give somebody enough power, and they just go bananas with it, you know. Yeah.
And also another accused in this who has probably gone somewhat unnoticed is Mariah Carey.
I did not know that. No,
her bodyguard of a couple of years has launched a lawsuit against her for sexual harassment. She was just, I mean, and this is like you said, it's a power thing. She was employing this gentleman, and she was fucking with him in a sexual way, and yeah, like I think it's a power dynamic thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. But I mean, historically, women have been on the losing end of that. Exactly. I don't think we should, I mean, of course, we'll acknowledge that happens, but also let's just keep in mind that the vast majority of the time, it's the other way around.
That's right. But I think, I mean, there's enough men that are victims of sexual assault and sexual harassment that, I mean, it bears mentioning that I think that, I mean, it's important to make that distinction. However, right now we are experiencing a surge of male accused. And Al Franken, that's a big disappointment for a lot of people.
Yeah, and there seems to be a little some controversy behind that. It's simply because I guess he was a popular politician. He was a real champion for progressive causes, and a lot of people are like, why would you just give him a pass? And it wasn't that big a deal, And if it was a Republican, they wouldn't. I mean, they had Roy Moore, and he was molesting girls. And
Yeah.
okay, is that the standard we're going by? Really? I mean,
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
Steven Seagal now too.
It's, you know.
Are you surprised by that?
No, I mean, come on. Come on.
I'm not.
Yeah. Guys like that, they're douchebags anyway. I'm not surprised by that.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody like Franken, there's been a lot of controversy because he's, you know, there's even women that are like, well, it wasn't that bad. You know, I mean, he just touched them, you know, in a certain way or whatever. Mm-hmm. And even Franken did like kind of a non-apology. He's like, well, Roy Moore was doing all this. You know,
that's the thing that pisses me off about. I mean, how many people have sincerely apologized for what they did? How many are just doing damage control, and how many people are legitimately like, I fucked up, you guys. That was not okay. I don't think it's in the majority of people that have been accused of this that have legitimately, sincerely apologized for what they did.
Yeah, because I don't think they did anything wrong.
No.
And to an extent, they may legitimately not think it because they've been told. Men have been, I mean, again, this isn't an excuse, but it's an explanation. Mm-hmm. We've been told our entire lives this kind of behavior is fine.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not, but, you know, it's like one of those things where, like, men are like, oh, wait a minute, do I touch somebody inappropriately? Mm-hmm. You know, and, like, a lot of guys are like, well, no, I have to look over my shoulder and think about every time I talk to a woman, if I'm like, oh, no, you really? That's horrible. You mean kind of like how women have to look over their shoulder and make sure some guy's not walking behind them, you know, about their... I mean, there's so many stories women talk among each other, like I've heard. Like, they don't go out after a certain time alone because they're afraid of, you know, being assaulted or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, you don't leave your friend alone in a bar or whatever. Make sure you watch your drinks. Just make sure somebody roofies it. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, what the hell?
Yep.
And like I said, this is just stuff men are completely... That's one of the things this whole thing is made just how clueless guys are to this sort of thing in general. But it's not surprising, you know.
No, it's really sad. But yeah, like Sarah Silverman, she posted a video not that long ago. It was probably a couple of years ago where she was leaving... I think she was playing like pickup basketball or something like that. And she was filming herself, you know, saying, you know, I'm just filming myself. I got my keys in my hand just in case, you know, I have to make a run for it. Like she's there's nobody around, but she feels scared enough that she has to make a social media post about walking home in the dark or walking to her vehicle in the dark. Like, I lock my doors. I don't live in a tremendously huge city, but I still lock my doors if I'm by myself late at night after I've recorded a podcast. I'm definitely locking my doors because I don't know who's out there. People could run up and, I mean, it's scary. It's scary if you allow yourself to think of the possibilities. And it's shitty that we have to be on guard like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a fact of life.
Yeah. In
a patriarchal society where, you know, toxic masculinity reigns supreme, basically. You know, and that's this kind of this backlash that's occurred. I think is something that we need, definitely something that we need to talk about. One of the things that really makes me mad is when men try to. Well, what about, you know? There's guys. That's happened to guys too, and this goes back to what we were just saying about. There are assaults, of course, but they're always trying to make the conversation about them. Okay, we're not talking about you right now. Everything else is about you. Can we please have a moment where this shit's not about you for a minute?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm doing it right now. Can I make it? It's my show, though, so I can do that. But
yeah. I think I think it's okay. I mean, you're doing a good job. I appreciate what you are trying to do in the skeptic community, in the greater community, is being a self-aware man who's trying to, educate himself on feminist issues and issues that people of color have and different minorities have. And I think that that's doing the world a service for sure. But you're right. There's a lot of men who pipe up and say, well, what about us? Well, what about this or what about that? And I think not to defend that position, but I think it's a natural thing to say that, to kind of think, well, how do I fit in this situation? And it's not necessarily okay to be like, well, what about me? What about men? Or like hashtag not all men or whatever. Like, I think, yeah, the guys need to just shush and let the women talk and express their feelings and talk about their experiences and their fears, and they need to express themselves, because men have the floor most of the time. And it's important to give women the platforms and the safe spaces, if you want to call it that, to talk about these things. As uncomfortable as it might be for a man to hear these things, I think in the end, it's okay to talk about that stuff. And I think we need to. It's going to be uncomfortable. We're going to be like wringing our hands and maybe sitting on our hands and squirming in our chairs when we listen to this stuff, but we sure as hell need to listen to it. Otherwise, how can we advance as a society and be more respectful of the people that are in these situations?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, there's been a lot of victim blaming that's been going on. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I've heard, well, why do they wait so long to say anything? I mean, as if that, that would do any good anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I understand it, women have been enduring it for so long and every time they say anything, they're just basically ignored, So, like, we have been telling you just been fucking ignoring us the whole time,
Yeah. Yeah. You've been, watching the sports on TV or, whittling or something.
Whittling? What are we in the 1900s? Okay, anyway.
It depends.
Oh, you're in Saskatchewan. I don't know what century you're in.
Oh, we live in igloos up here, remember?
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, and if you think about like one of the big examples is sexual assaults or rape.
Yes.
When they're reported, which is very rarely, because the reason they're not reported is because when they are reported, women are dragged through the mud. They're blamed. There's a lot of victim blaming, like it's their fault. Why were you there in the first place?
Yeah.
Why were you wearing this or that? Why were you flirting? Any of that. Like any of that's an excuse to fucking rape somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a lot of reason they don't come forward. In the first place.
Yeah, and we've had. I mean, the States has had challenges with rape kits not being tested, sitting in storage, and just rotting essentially. And there's, up in Canada a few years ago, there was a case when a prominent radio DJ was accused by multiple women of sexual assault, and there was a criminal case. He was formally charged, and it went to court, and I don't think he was found guilty. He was crucified in the media, but he ultimately has no criminal record, and he's essentially got off scot-free. And these women have been completely crucified in the media for accusing him of this and talking to each other. And I think that when these things are brought forward, and I think the way that our legal system is designed, it's such that it's he said, she said, basically, and there's not much physical evidence that allows you to convict somebody in something like this. And I just don't think that. I think if in some ways the cards are stacked against women, or accusers for that matter, when stuff like this comes out. Because what can you do? Yeah, you can tell somebody, but are you gonna get what you want? Are you gonna get that person to pay pay the price for doing what they did to you? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's what it boils down to. And even when they're convicted, a lot of the sentences are like nothing hardly.
Yeah.
I mean,
your man, not your man, specifically your man, but the guy that was convicted of rape, and he was given what, 3 months?
Brock Turner or whatever.
Yeah. And he's out of jail, and now his lawyer is actually trying to appeal his conviction.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the judge felt bad, and his parents were, feeling bad. And meanwhile, this woman she was not even conscious when this happened to her, and her life is completely turned upside down because of what happened. Like, it's just an epidemic. And I think we have a long way to go before, and this, the pendulum is going to swing in the other direction, and we're men are going to be paranoid. Well, what are my interactions with women? Am I, being inappropriate? Okay, that's good. It's good that you're second guessing your behavior, and we'll find a balance again.
You need to. I don't understand what. I mean, it's like, if you were that paranoid to begin with, you were doing something fucked up. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
And let's kind of move into that. What can men? Because I mean, ultimately, this is a men's issue. What can men do?
Yeah.
To mitigate this, to kind of, I mean, it's put a lot of people, men, and I'll speak for myself. I will be honest. I am thinking, well, did I? And I think almost every man has probably done something. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe a small thing or whatever, but they may have done something that could be construed as sexual, harassment or something.
Yeah.
Simply because we are not trained to see these things, and therefore don't realize we're fucking up. Now, again, that's not an excuse.
No.
But it's an explanation. Yeah. So, what the fuck? We need to do some shit. And again, we don't need to be putting the emotional labor on women. So I don't really want to do that. But I think it would be instructive to at least get some guidelines. What we could do.
I think don't be a dick, first of all. And, I don't know. I think there's a number of ways that men can be more respectful. I mean, you're not going to, grab your buddy's junk. You're not going to just, that's not how guys interact with each other. I don't know. Football, maybe, they pat each other's butts.
I never understood that anyway. But anyway.
It's gross. I don't know why people do that, but I think if we have to just be aware. We have to pull our heads out of our asses just long enough to see, oh, I'm interacting with another human being, and I have to treat them with respect. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that difficult a concept for me. If I say something to you that is offensive, tell me, and I will apologize. I'm sorry for saying that. I shouldn't have been disrespectful. I shouldn't have treated you like that. It seems like common sense to me going forward. It's
obviously not to men. And it's because, I think a lot of it has to do with we've been trained, I don't know, sociologically, conditioned that women are not, well, let's be honest, are not fully human. They're more like objects. They're not, I mean, now, of course, this has changed, for the better, but let's be honest, it's only been within the last, 50 years that women only got the right to vote in the 20s, right?
Yeah.
And women have only really come into the workplace over the last 40 years, I guess.
Yep.
Or something. And if you look at some of the shit, women weren't even allowed to go to they only were allowed to have certain jobs. And if you watch some of the comedy from back then, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's the worst kind of sexist garbage. I mean, it's horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember hearing a story about a woman who would walk off the subway and literally hundreds of men would gather to watch her walk by.
Yeah.
And this was not even that long ago. I mean, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is wrong with you people? It was because, again, we're conditioned that women are objects, and this shit does not go away, immediately.
No.
And it's just like, of course, that's the same thing with anything like racism or, civil rights and all that. I mean, it goes underground, but it doesn't go away.
Yeah. And I think, there was a lot of hope after Obama had 2 terms in the Oval Office, and okay, we're becoming more progressive as a society, but I don't know, white women are the reason that Trump got elected.
I know, right?
And it's kind of depressing to think about that, but I think that there's still a significant number of us, women and men, who perpetuate this behavior, whether it's like purity culture. And my husband and I were talking about religion and how, some argue that religion has persisted for so many years, so it's okay. It should be perpetuated. But it's a patriarchal religion. The majority of the religions that exist today are patriarchal.
Yeah.
And women are getting the shit end of the stick, because in those religions, according to Christianity, we're created in the image of God, but we exist to serve men. That's our sole purpose. We have to submit to our husbands, and we can't talk in church, and we have to cover our heads, and a lot of guys are like, yeah, that's exactly, yeah, go make me a sandwich. I need a cold beer. It's just so pervasive, and it's frustrating to operate. And I think being interrupted as a woman is really frustrating for me because we don't get enough opportunity to talk. And, just as this is gaining, the Me Too movement is gaining traction, there's the backlash. And I don't know, it's discouraging, but there's got to be a way to help men understand that we all need feminism.
It's keeping the pressure on, basic. And that's not easy. It's hard to kind of keep a level of outrage, I guess you could say. I mean, people get outrage fatigue or whatever. And
I think that's what I'm feeling now. And that's why, I don't engage with people on Facebook nearly as much as I used to, because it's tiring. It's tiring to constantly come up against people that oppose you.
Yeah, and I don't as much. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a sucker for these sort of things. I don't know.
Maybe.
I have a bit of a drama thing in me, I guess. But yeah, as far as this goes, I mean, the Me Too stuff, I think we need to kind of, if we were to give a kind of a summary of what we need to do going forward, but I would say for what men need to do going forward is fucking call each other out. We have to start fucking calling each other out. And that's part of the reason this perpetuates. Men don't call each other out. They look the other way.
Yeah.
When they see shit like this happening. And we need to start fucking calling each other out for being a douche nugget or whatever. I mean, when you see a guy doing some obviously fucking sexist shit, and like, hey, man, what the fuck are you doing, man?
Yeah.
If he's like inappropriately touching a woman or, harassing him and, verbally or whatever, I mean,
yeah,
call him out.
Yeah.
That's what but we got to police ourselves, man. I mean, because we can't expect anybody to do it for us.
No.
I mean, we created the problem, so we need to fix it.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, so That's my understanding of what needs to happen. We need to start watching ourselves, keeping track of. We need to educate, and that's another thing. We need to educate ourselves and educate our children.
Yeah.
Stop the cycle or something.
Well, I think that's really true. I think that we need to stop suppressing boys, letting them feel sad, letting them cry, letting them feel traditionally feminine emotions. And I think that will help, and also teach kids to ask permission to hug other people, or like just start to like don't force your kids to hug their grandparents if they don't want to, because that's I think where it starts. Let the kids understand that your body is yours. It doesn't belong to men. If you're a woman, it doesn't belong to a man. It's yours. You get to decide what happens to it. And I think that empowering girls to feel that way, to feel like, oh, okay, this is mine. And then also getting boys to understand, okay, well, that's, sex isn't like it is in porn, or jacking off in front of you isn't super sexy. If it's just like you're reading a magazine and I'm jacking off, like that's not how it works. You have to communicate your wants with the person that you're with. Like, I don't know. It's not rocket science. Like, I think we can teach our kids how to treat each other. And also, like you said, guys can call each other out on their behavior.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, we stop it in its tracks by calling each other out consistently. Mm-hmm. Even if it's your friends, even if it's your boy, Hell, I don't want to hang out with no guys who fucking do that shit anyway,
nope.
Really. I mean,
nope.
That's just me. I mean, what am I, a frat boy? What the fuck,
Yeah. It's not cool anymore.
I mean, what the hell,
Yeah.
And then stop perpetuating it to our kids. I mean, gender roles in general are bullshit. Let's stop enforcing that fucking archaic crap anyway. I mean,
yeah.
Girls' toys, boys' toys, whatever. Just fuck it, they're toys. Who gives a fuck?
Exactly. And colors.
Oh, God, yeah. Blue and pink and every damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't even, if you pay attention, you see it everywhere, You don't even think twice about getting somebody blue, for a boy, getting blue, whatever, and then if it's a girl, you get pink stuff. I mean, it's just, you don't even think about it, you know. So, I don't know. We just gotta do better in general. I mean,
Yeah. We can do better. We can definitely do better.
I hope, I'm just not an optimist in general, but I hope this exposure at least gets guys thinking about what the fuck they're doing. I mean,
I hope so. And I hope when the dust starts to settle again, which it will, and then another thing will be viral, and then we'll move on to something else. Donald Trump will tweet something ridiculous and we'll, move on to something else. But I hope that this can bring about a new normal. So at least our behavior or potential behavior gives us pause. We stop and think, oh, am I being respectful to this person? Am I treating them the way that they would like to be treated? It's not rocket science.
Yeah. So maybe we can get a conversation going and keep it going.
I hope so.
And if we don't get,
go ahead.
If we don't get blown up first by Trump or whatever.
It's large buttons.
Yeah, there's large. Jesus Christ. I don't even know what to do with that fool anymore. He's just so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous.
It'd be funny if it weren't so terrifying. Yeah.
I know. Like, even watching a show like Full Frontal, which is so nice to watch just for the satirical aspect of things. The last time we watched that, it was super depressing. Like, you can't even watch satire anymore because it's just so sad. Like, they're trying to make light of the political climate, but it is bleak.
Pretty fucking bleak. Hopefully in 2018 we can get some Democrats in Congress and kind of mitigate the disaster somewhat. I don't know.
Make them hold a kitten when they're talking to people. I don't know. Or puppies. We should do that, I think.
That's actually, I don't know. These motherfuckers probably eat them. I don't know.
Well, atheists are accused of eating babies, so.
But we're the bad ones.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right, Angela.
Well, thanks for having me on your show.
Thanks for coming on.
It was fun.
And talking such enlightening, and well, it is enlightening, but it's not pleasant, but it's definitely something that needs to be talked about.
Yeah, I agree.
And the more exposure we can give it, the better. And I will say, in the skeptic community, we're not immune to women being harassed. Trust me on that.
And that is a whole other episode. Holy shit. That's a whole other episode.
Yeah, women, I didn't even bring it up, but yeah, there's a lot of that. Don't think that's not in the atheist/skeptic community.
Well, and that's the thing, like, it's super pervasive, and it's disgusting, and I think that's probably one of the main reasons why I haven't commented on the Me Too thing. Because before the Harvey Weinstein thing came out, there was stuff in the skeptic community that was really disturbing. So, yeah, it's in our community as well.
Yeah, you wonder why there's hardly any women in the movement. You don't see many of them because they're scared off by guys like that, and they keep getting gigs.
Yes.
And we know who we're. If you're in the community, you know who we're talking about.
Yep.
And they even sue people who say anything about it. So.
Oh yeah. The lawsuit threatening is just like ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I know a couple of people. I went to Skepticon.
Yes.
Earlier this year.
That's right.
And there was somebody I knew, a couple of people who were get a slap lawsuit, which it's too easy to sue people here. It's ridiculous, really.
It's less easy here, but it still happens.
So I mean, yeah. It's the same shit. Men have all the power, and they have, especially in this community, men hold most white dudes, especially, have all the power.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of all the white guys. We need some fucking diversity.
Yes. And
that's the reason I try to have different people on and stuff. But anyway.
I think that's good.
Which was funny, a bit off topic, but at Skepticon I was on a little impromptu podcaster panel with Marissa McCool and
yes, I remember hearing about that.
Maddie Lib, which the video still hasn't come up on the YouTube, but I'll make sure I'll tell y'all when it comes up on YouTube. But it was funny. We were supposed to be talking about diversity in podcasting, 3 white people. So it was, but the idea, it was about bringing more diverse voices on our podcast,
yes.
Which is what I've been trying to do.
That's good.
My little voice in the wilderness, for what it's worth. But
yeah, well, I think it's valuable. I think that's really important. Social justice or no social justice, I think it's important to try and have as much diversity as possible. I read a tweet the other day that says, crazy how women have the stereotype of being chatty when 90% of dudes have 45-minute podcasts that no one listens to. I find it funny. We don't have a lot of downloads on the Brainstorm podcast. And there's a lot of dudes, and it's kind of discouraging sometimes because you feel like you're just out in the void, just screaming out into nothingness. But I like to think that the more we do this and the more we connect with, even if it's just fellow podcasters just going on each other's shows, I feel like it helps somehow to just keep talking and keep the conversation going and trying to do as much as we can to promote diversity and to, call out bullshit whenever we see it. I'm a little idealistic that way, I guess.
You're Canadian. So
well, not all Canadians are idealistic.
I don't know. I just like to shit on Canadians because y'all have it so much better, and I'm jealous.
The healthcare is nice. The healthcare is pretty nice.
I'm not going to fucking Saskatchewan though.
No, last week it was like minus 40.
Yeah, I'm good.
It was bloody cold.
Well, hell, everywhere in this shit right now, everybody's fucking cold here.
Yeah, I think we had it before you.
Yeah, it's like 10 degrees and shit. For us, it's like oh my god,
yeah,
it's Armageddon.
Yeah,
you know.
Shut it down, everybody.
Oh, don't worry, the South gets shut down. Fucking people hanging off bridges and shit. It gets, people get crazy around here.
Yeah, and here after about 3 days, it's like, oh, well, that doesn't feel that bad. Oh, it's only minus 40 with the wind chill. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go out and do some things for a while.
I'm waiting for it to get to 30. I'll be fucking happy.
Well, today was minus 10. It was gorgeous.
Minus 10. Wait.
That's Celsius,
are we talking?
Not Fahrenheit.
I was going to say, see, you don't even do measurements right. Jesus Christ. I need American.
It was 50 today.
50 what?
Fahrenheit.
What?
No, wait. Hang on.
No.
My conversion, hang on. Let's see. 14. That's better.
Okay, that's about what it was today.
Okay.
Yeah, 14.
And that for us is good. I mean, it often gets really cold after Christmas here. And it definitely did. But, you guys have allies up here. And we're definitely rooting for you guys to succeed. And...
Well, I know some Canadians, so I might have to end up crashing on some couches to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I mean, take a week and just see how we do it in America's toque, as it were.
Toque?
That's what we call hats up here.
That's a hat. Oh wow! Okay. That's
like a knit hat that you wear when it's cold.
A toque?
Toque.
Toque, not toque. Okay.
It's spelled Toque.
Oh my God! This is some French shit.
That's right. Yeah. I never said we were normal up here.
I know. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But so why don't you go ahead and promote your stuff there, Angela?
Well, you can find us on Facebook if you go to Brainstorm Podcast. We're the podcast with the brain, and you can see our podcasts on iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. Yeah, we record every couple weeks, and we record for 3 hours. We put 2 episodes out for that, and yeah, we release them once a week, and it's a really good time. And sometimes you can even listen live too if you want to. So that's fun. That's about it.
No, because you forgot what you're trying to make a GoFundMe for.
Oh, yeah. The other thing, Shift to Reason Conference. We are trying to bring another conference to our fair city of Regina, Saskatchewan, and we just go to our Shift to Reason Conference Facebook page, and the link is there, and you'll go to the GoFundMe page and be able to contribute if you so wish. It's kind of slowed down a little bit. We're a little bit discouraged, but we don't necessarily want to give up because we truly believe that social justice issues are as important as ever, especially with, the recent Truth and Reconciliation Commission that we've had in our country. And we need to bring more diversity and more social justice issues to the forefront in our province. So, yeah, thank you for reminding me. I totally would have forgotten about that.
I saw you bring it up earlier. I was like, oh shit, yeah, I need to.
Yeah, it's a thing.
What's a Truth and Reconciliation? What's that? Native Americans?
Yeah, the Indigenous people of Canada were basically put in. They called them residential schools, and it was basically Catholic schools where they tried to beat the culture out of them. And the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was something that happened across the country, where a number of residential school survivors could come and tell their stories. And as a result of all of those testimonies, the people that headed up this commission brought forward some recommendations to help support Indigenous people to be more accepted and feel more included, because this is their country too. It was theirs before we ever came along. So it's a very painful part of our past, and I think some people don't fully understand how horrible it was to take children away from their parents and force them to go to school and not have a culture anymore. They call it intergenerational trauma that was brought forth by the government and various officials that thought this was a really good idea.
Yeah, we know a little something about that down here, I think.
Yeah, you are not. Yeah, you have your own stories about that stuff.
Oh, Lord. I mean, that's a whole nother thing. Jesus Christ. Woo. Anyway, I promise, if y'all have, for one thing, the way that it's spelled Regina, I don't... Every time I hear it, I can't think of anything but vagina. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm a horrible person.
That's okay. That's okay. Back in 96, when I went to Atlanta it was a missions trip back when I was churchy, I told people where I was from, and I said Regina, and they gave me a dirty look, like I was saying vagina. I did come out of a vagina, but I live in a city that rhymes with vagina. It just starts with an R.
Yeah, it's because I can't think of any other word that sounds that close to. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I don't think so. I don't think there's another. And it's a British thing, right? Because the city's named after Queen Victoria.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, yeah,
that makes sense. All right. So I promise, if you all have the thing, that I will make a concerted effort to get to Saskatchewan.
Yeah. If we.
Where is?
Go ahead.
What state is that above? What area?
Montana, North Dakota.
Okay. So yeah, I will definitely try to get up there.
It's
one way or another.
It's not that far.
It's not that far.
I think you'd have to drive for about 26 hours to get.
Yeah, make a nice little road trip out of it.
Yeah.
Give me some. Go to what is that place called? Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons, and you can get your double.
I don't know what that is.
That's a coffee with 2 cream and 2 sugar.
That's not enough for me.
No, you need it sweeter and blonder than that.
Yeah. Blonder.
Yeah, blonde and sweet.
Okay, that's not... What are you saying? Is that English? Stop.
It is.
Okay.
It's just slang.
I know.
And then we have some really good restaurants here, too, that you probably like.
I'm a fat guy, so yeah, I like restaurants.
Yeah.
I like food.
I'm a fat girl, so I can completely relate to that.
All right.
Well, I hope you feel better.
Yeah, I'm better now.
Good.
I just have a slight cough.
Okay. Well, you better go listen to your chatty cat.
And I'm gonna go ahead and everybody. The cat's probably going to be. You're probably going to hear meowing in the background.
Yeah.
So, but everybody knows I love cats. So.
You do post a lot of cat videos. I think you're probably the one in my newsfeed that posts the most cat videos / pictures.
Yeah. So I mean, everybody's going to know that anyway.
Yeah.
So. All right, Angela.
All right.
Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for staying up on short notice.
You're welcome. Now I'm going to go to bed.
All right. Well, I'll let you go then.
Have a fantastic evening. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.
You too.
That'll do for this episode of the Podunk Polymath Podcast. I want to thank Angela Reddekopp for coming on and talking to me about the Me Too campaign and what brought it about, what are some of the circumstances, what can we do about it, what men can do mostly because we suck. So that just goes without saying. So thanks to her, especially coming on last minute, because she's awesome and Canadian, but we won't hold that against her. Of course, if you want to come and check out the show on the interwebs, you can come to podunk.polymath.com. Of course, the music is done by ... Dash. You can check their music out at cdbaby.com/cd/... New and improved logo is by Jeff Prebig Jr. on Twitter at PidAtheist. Of course, you can check out the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Google Plus under the Podunk Polymath. You can email me at podunk.polymath@gmail.com. If you want to become part of the Patreon posse, you can come patreon.com/thepodunkpolymath. Call-in phone number 615-378-POPO 7676. Leave me a voicemail because I haven't got one in 150 years. You know, do me a solid. If you want to become part of join the Podunk Polymath Podcast Posse Facebook group, you can come to facebook.com/group/Podunk Polymath Pod. Oh my God. The Podunk Polymath Podcast Posse, all separated by periods. There's also an online store, zazzle.com/podunk_polymath. On the sidebar there, on the page, you can follow me on WordPress. Up to, was it 57? Wow, okay. I have a little tweet box so you can see my tweets and follow me on Twitter. You can donate via PayPal. You can subscribe via RSS, Google Play, iTunes, or Stitcher. There's a Patreon button there. There's also a Facebook like box, and you can also see who likes my page. Some of the people, and they're awesome people. Why wouldn't they be? Recent posts and recent comments. Again, I'm sorry for bowing out once again. I'm trying to get more regular, but, you know, shit happens. I was sick, so what the fuck are you going to do? I mean, shit happens. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. I hope y'all enjoyed the interview. I hope you don't freeze too much, because apparently we're in a sub-Arctic thing going on here, and it's cold even here in the south. It's 10 degrees, so it's probably cool as fuck Florida, it's snowing, so but climate change is totally not a fucking thing. It's totally not. No, what? No, what? Because Trump said it's not, and therefore it must not be. Anyway. All right now. Well, until next time, y'all take it easy now, okay?